I didn't want to look trans. I wanted to look female. But it becomes all-consuming. I can start a new life away from the trauma that Michael has.
Yeah.
They've medicated me for 5 years. Now that I'm reversing, they don't want to know. It's allowing regular gay men that the better option for them is to transition, trans the gay away. I just need to get this magic pill and it'll make everything better. The way that doctors are trained is littered within homophobia. It's like, oh, and good job you didn't get the bottom surgery then, wasn't it? I'm like, what? It's going to be detransitioning voices that takes this down, and I'm going to be one of them.
Hi everyone, I am at the airport. I'm about to go on a flight, and where am I going? Where are we going? We are going, not somewhere sunny I'm afraid, we're going to go to very cold and chilly Glasgow. I'm going there to meet a guy called Michael. Michael is a gay male detransitioner, and he got in touch with me the other day saying he wanted to share his story. I prefer to do these kind of things as much as I can face to face, and especially with a delicate sort of conversation like that, I thought it'd be much better. I want to say thank you to all the people that have been giving me super chats during the last couple of live streams that I did. That allows me to do this kind of stuff. So thank you so much. And in particular, I want to say a really big thank you to Patty, to Natalie, and to Roly Poly. Thank you so much. Please like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment. The YouTube algorithms love it when you leave a comment, not just in the chat, but underneath the video, because the more comments the video gets, the more YouTube goes, oh wow, people like this, oh they're engaging, and then it starts recommending it to other people and pushing it out, so that will really help to get Michael's message out. So if you don't know what to say, what could we say for Michael? Just say, go Michael, right? Go Michael! And obviously, if you also want to support me, then, ooh, is that my flight? Yes! Okay, this is the gate reveal. 17, right, so I'll go and find 17, that's right down that hall. I'll get myself a sandwich before I go. So yes, if you want to support me, then you can do so monthly via Patreon, or if you'd rather just give me, leave a one-off tip, then you can do so via PayPal, or on here via Super Thanks and Super Chat options. Right, okie dokie, I better go and head over to my gate. I'll see you later. Right, everyone, I found him, or rather, you found me.
I did.
Right? Because you messaged me on X?
Yes.
Not that long ago.
No, a week or two ago, yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. Actually tell me what happened? What made you go,
Well, I'd obviously seen your videos for a while, and the one thing that made me laugh was the Chromosome song.
It's plain to see it's that Y chromosome. You're male because of that Y chromosome.
And I was like, okay, that guy's right up my street. And then obviously we have some mutuals on X also that would speak highly of you. So I thought, I need to actually get the word out. The word needs to be heard far and wide. And yeah, I reached out to you and you messaged back and you're like, yep, let's set it up, no problem.
Let's do it. And here we are. So we've already spoken quite a bit off camera, and it's quite a story that you've got to tell. And you're still so young.
Yeah, 33. So not as young as a lot, but not as old as some.
Right, so it's always a bit tricky with conversations like this because there's so much to talk about. So I thought if we focus sort of on the personal side of it, as in the physical side, because you've been on the medical path for a good 5 years.
Yeah, just short of 5 years, yeah.
Then there's the emotional, psychological side of it. And one thing that's very important to you is the systemic side of it.
Yeah. Right,
and what's wrong with how clinics operate. And well, basically you fell through the cracks. And is it a crack or is it like a big, massive ravine?
Oh, it's a black hole of abysmal. So it is. It's the way that doctors are trained is littered within homophobia, and you can no longer be a gay man just experiencing a gay life anymore. You know, if you're just a gay man that likes high heels and makeup, well, actually, you're probably a trans woman, as they like to say. And, you know, it's jumping to the fact of just medicating people instead of explaining how it's okay to express yourself in any way that you wish. So it's quite sad to see.
Yeah, and you got to a point yourself where you looked at life that way, and at yourself. So before we get to that, just tell me a bit about like growing up. What was it like when you were young? What sort of environment did you grow up in?
A loving one. My parents were parents, really. They just loved you, and, you know, I always had a hot dinner at the end of the day, and I went to school. I was a bit of a troublemaker in school, mind you. God love my parents for it. But
why does that not surprise me at all?
But no, they were great. Like I had one of the best childhoods. You know, I never went without anything. We were always fed. We were always clean. You know, we went on holidays, caravans. I always remember going on caravan holidays. It was great. Growing up, like, there were no kind of any childhood trauma or anything like that.
Okay. And were your parents, did they have particular ideas about what boys and girls should be like or act like, or?
I mean, not really. No, they were the you know, stereotypical parents that would dress you in, you know, blue for boys, pink for girls. But when I started, you know, coming into my teenage years, and I was now at the point where I was picking my own clothes and stuff, they weren't, oh, you're not wearing that, you're not supposed to wear that. You know, they were just like, well, you know, you might get some looks when you're out. And I'm like, don't care.
Was that more about them protecting you?
Yes,
right.
Absolutely. It was more of a kind of element of protection. You know, kids grow up in environments where bullying is rife. Sadly, it happens, and that's what they were trying to protect myself from, but not inhibit me from being who I wanted to express myself as.
And what sort of things were you drawn to at the time in terms of what you wanted to wear?
I was very fashionable when I was young, if I do say so myself. You know, I was skinny jeans and ripped jeans and a nice flowery shirt. Or I always remember this one outfit. It was a two-piece. It was like long shorts, but it was like it looked like clouds. They were blue with clouds on them, and I had the top to go with it. But the top was supposed to be down here, but because I was so tall, the top stopped here.
Okay.
So it was like one of the kind of over-the-shoulder flaunty things, and I think that was the one time my dad looked at me and was like, are you really going out wearing that? And I was like, yes, I am.
Take it to the clouds above.
So, but yeah, it was, you know, I just wore whatever I really wanted. I didn't really care.
And you said that apparently when you were 6, what was it that you said to your sister?
Yeah. So I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it was many months ago. 6-year-old, I went into my sister's room and I had said to my sister, I think I'm gay. And, you know, being 6-year-old, my sister's like, you don't know what gay is? Like, tell me in 10 years' time if you think you're gay and I'll believe it then. And that was kind of the end of the conversation, because I didn't know what gay was. You know, I would see people on TV, you know, like Paul O'Grady, you know, at this point. And, you know, I would just resonate with the femininity of that individual. And obviously being so young, I didn't know what, you know, femininity and masculinity was, but the actions that I seen was the same kind of way that I, like, was so flamboyant in my movement.
Yeah.
So they were just very, you know, my sister was like, oh, away you go, like, tell me in 10 years' time if you're still gay.
But you knew that Paul was a man, right?
Yes, I knew that Paul was a man.
You
Yes.
just
I even knew that Lily Savage was a man, because that was
Right.
his alter ego, wasn't it? So I even knew that Lily Savage was a man.
Oh,
but
that's funny. Right, so at the time, you thought gay was just flamboyant man.
yeah,
Right.
kind of eccentric, flamboyant, over the top. Pretty much what I am now. So I've lived up to every single stereotype that I thought. Here we go.
The cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah.
But then as you know, became a teenager, then it became more of a serious thing, right?
Yeah. So during obviously my early teenage years, I was in the closet. I hadn't came out at this point, and you know, when I was in first and second year, which would be around about the ages of 11, 12, 13, 14 type areas. So in I don't know if this is worldwide, but we've got a terminology called beards for people
Beards.
that beards.
Yeah, it's when you have a girlfriend
Yes.
or a girl who pretends to be your girlfriend,
Yes.
so you can pass as a straight guy.
Yes, so there were a couple of beards in my life. Thank you very much for saving my soul in school. And sorry.
They didn't know they were a beard.
No,
Ah, okay.
no. But of course, like, you know, I didn't know at this point that that's what I was. You know, I'm still young. I'm just starting puberty at this point. You know, I'm feeling uncomfortable with my body as it's changing. It's the last thing I'm trying to now do is, you know, soul search to see if I'm gay or not. You know, I'm just trying to figure life out. So it was, I was about 15-ish, 15, when I actually came out as being, you know, a gay man. Liked by some, hated by others, is what it is. But yeah, it was a weird time to navigate because, you know, you're starting puberty, you know, you're just finding little interests, but then, you know, you're also not wanting to come out too young in case of you getting bullied. And
15 to me sounds young.
yeah.
Like I didn't figure it out and find peace with it, if you like, until I was 21.
So the way I came out, it wasn't by choice. It was kind of...
You were caught.
No, I wasn't. No, it was more in an argument between friend groups of, you know, someone that I had dated, a girl at that time that I had dated, and she had fell out with another one of our friends because, you know, she had thought that this other friend had made us split up, and then that's when I was kind of like, no, I did because I'm gay. And before I realised what I was saying, I just kind of said it. And then, you know, I think the reaction from the ex-girlfriend was like, oh yeah, I kind of know. And then, you know, that was it. We were best friends after this point.
So you lost the date, but you got a best friend.
Yeah, so it was kind of not through choice.
And were there other guys your age that had come out as gay at school?
I was the only kind of gay person in the school at this point.
The only gay in the village?
The only gay in the village.
Right. And then what was the response at the time at school? Did people like call you names or bully you? Or?
I got the traditional names getting called, you know, queer and the F1 and but what surprised me the most that there were, you know, some of the it crew, you know, the men or the boys at the time, you know, some of them would come up and shake my hand and say, well done, because you're braver than a lot of more people. And I was quite taken aback by that, you know, because I didn't expect, you know, that reaction. I was more guard up, defensive. I'm going to get bullied, I need to protect myself. So when you know, you had this person coming up that you thought was going to be the bully, that was actually the supporter.
Yeah.
You're like, what do I do with this information right now? I'm on overload.
Did you fall in love with them?
So no, I didn't. No.
I think I would have. I'd be like, yes, protect me.
No. But yeah, like, I mean, I got into a few fights at school because I was gay, and, you know, there were some people that just were so closed-minded that the only answer that they could do was bully. And a couple of people that bullied me have now themselves came out as gay men. So, you know, looking back at it now at this age, I'm like, well, even though it wasn't acceptable, I seen why. I was the one that had the courage to admit who they were.
Yeah.
That person obviously didn't until later in life, so they were dealing with whatever demons they were having to deal with. But
and projecting it onto you.
Yeah, but do you know what? I'm happy that I came out at the age that I did. I think it helped me settle in to who I am, because I always tell people when you first come out as gay, you kind of go to the extreme of gay, so you know, become over animated in your gay, and then, you know, after a few years of kind of living within that life, you just, you know, settle down and find your place. Obviously it took me until I was 33 to settle down and find my place,
but some people never find that place.
Yeah, and it's quite sad. It really is quite sad.
What about your parents and like your sister or other siblings, if you have them? How did they sort of respond to it?
It was never really spoken about, to be honest. Like, I told them, obviously, that I was gay. You know, my sisters, they love me regardless, and same with my brothers, they love me regardless. And my dad's old school. He's not homophobic, but he was quite old school. So he was quite taken aback by it, but then just never spoke about it. And my mum was quite the same. When I told my mum, I think I was trying to find something to wear out, and I was like, "You just hate me because I'm gay," and crying. And my mum's like, "All right, okay, well, here's your clothes," and just kind of went about her day. But they weren't like anti. They just, they just never experienced kind of, well, I'm their son, like what kind of reaction?
Did they ever like want to have conversations about it, or?
No, not really. If I came to them to have the conversation, then, they would have opened up and had that conversation with me. But I think it was just kind of accepted, right? Okay, Michael's gay.
Right, like not a big deal.
It is what it is, we'll just move on. I didn't introduce any of my boyfriends until I was 18, and, and then I found someone that I liked and I introduced them, and they were like, oh, hi, and life moves on. Like,
it's kind of normal, really. Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, it
so, because there's a few gay men that I've asked, like I've mentioned that I was going to be meeting you, and I said, do you have any specific questions for him? Like, so from gay man to gay man.
Yeah.
So we'll go through those as well. But quite a few were wondering about was it something traumatic in your childhood, or was it a homophobic environment that you grew up in? But it doesn't sound
no,
like
quite the
that.
opposite. Very supportive.
So you're in a generally supportive environment. There's some bullying. You're living your life as a gay teenager. So then what brought about the shift from, you did mention you found puberty difficult.
Yep.
Where did the idea start to come in of, okay, you went from, here's Lily Savage, flamboyant, I like that, and I'm a gay man or a gay guy, and people are supportive around me. When did that switch, it did switch like, when did the idea start to come in of, oh, maybe I'm not a gay guy at all, maybe I'm a woman?
Yeah, so it would have been in my 20s. So I think what I need to tell you, so the word trauma, but it wasn't related to childhood, was when I was 18. I was sexually assaulted at the age of 18, which kind of led me down the path of, excessive drinking, drug taking. So at this point, my lifestyle was impacting the home. So I left. I left at the age of 18. I became homeless, because I was more blocking out what had happened to me. My parents knew, they supported me. I reported it to the police, got tests done, different things, but ultimately I needed to block it out somehow. And the way that I did block it out was coping with alcohol and drugs. So I left the home at 18 and I went into homeless. And from that, it was a lot of sofa surfing. I would, go out into Glasgow, into the gay scene. I'd be in parties in the West End of Glasgow because, that was where everybody would congregate who kind of took drugs and different things. So that's where the trauma stemmed off of. When I was in Glasgow, I ended up in a house party in Glasgow. And there were like a particular circle of people that I kind of got involved in. But then one of my other friends, and now this is where it totally takes hold, where one of my other friends was moving to Blackpool. And I was like, oh, I'm coming with you. I've heard so much great things about Blackpool, gay capital of of Britain. I'm coming down. So her and I moved down. But then she moved up and I stayed down. And that's kind of where it kick-started, was down there, because down there, you've got drag queens, you've got transvestites, you've got transgenders, everybody is down there.
It's like the Brighton of the North, isn't it?
Yes, so everybody is down there. So I was meeting these people, and then I was known as the Scottish gay guy that liked high heels, because I would wear jogging bottoms, just sweatpants with a pair of high heels, which we all know is a fashion no pas, sweatpants on, pair of high heels, and I'd run up and down the street, and these heels were this size, and this is where it stemmed off of. This is where people would start saying, "Oh, you're flamboyant." I've got nails done, and they're like, "Oh, you're flamboyant. You seem like one of us," and I'd be like, "What's one of yours?" And they're, "Oh, we're transsexual," and then the questions would start like, "Oh, tell me more about transsexual." And then that's when it kind of took on this new persona. So to start off with, I was known as Laurie. That's the name that I chose, was Laurie. And then we cycled back 6 months later. I'm now back up in Scotland. But I'm not settled still. I'm out drinking, out, partying. I met another group of people in Glasgow, and that's when they were doing the same. It's like, I wouldn't say they were indoctrinating me, but they were teaching me stuff that I had never known about, and then equating what I done to what they do.
They were reinterpreting you
as what they
through
wanted.
their trans lens,
Yes.
if you like.
Yes. So,
and while this was happening, what were you working or were you studying?
So I had been in and out of several college courses, nothing kind of really stuck. But yeah, just before I put my referral in, I got a job with a company, and I was working there, but I was still partying and, taking drugs, but I would still go to work every day. And it was kind of a functioning thing.
Like a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah,
Like
very much so.
How to manage it. And at the time, did you realize I'm going off the rails? Or did you think I'm having the time of my life? Or did you have an inkling that said, I'm doing this as a sort of maladaptive coping mechanism?
I think all three, to be fair. So when there were moments where I was like, right, I need to try and stop this, I'd obviously, cut down on drinking or try and stop taking the drugs that I was taking. But then the thoughts would come back, and then I'd be like, oh no, I need to, and then I would straight go over, because that's the only thing that would help me forget,
Right. Well, so when you say the thoughts coming back, is that the thoughts of what happened?
Yeah. So the thoughts of the trauma at 18. So I would then go back to what I knew would stop it. And realise, that I need to work through this. I need to process this trauma. You can't just keep running from it. To me, it was the easy option. So let me not deal with it. I'll just block it out. And then that's when I started thinking, well, actually, I could just create a new life. I don't need to be Michael anymore. I'll just be Caitlin. I'll create the new life. Because obviously I'm showing signs of having gender dysphoria according to people. So, let's do that instead.
And when you said you found puberty difficult, in what way was that hard for you?
Hair growth, loathe it, still do, to be fair, at the age of 33. I don't know if it's common, but I sweated a lot going through puberty, like so much. So I was always self-conscious that I would smell.
Yeah.
And that's kind of trigger. A kind of trigger point for me. So it was, these just watching things grow, but I wasn't gaining any body weight. I was so slim and tall. I was like very lanky and skinny, but then I was watching everybody else around me who were my height, and they were kind of broadening out and, forming muscles, and there's just tall, skinny me. And, you kind of go through an element of comparing yourself to other people your age. And I preferred seeing what other people looked like than what I looked like, And I'm like, well, why am I not putting muscle on? Why am I still so tall? The old saying, you never can fatten a thoroughbred. Talking about horses, well, that was me.
Some people will die for that. Yeah, in fact, some people are dying for, to not be the size that they are. Like, different body types have different metabolism. Like, I cannot put weight on. Like, I hit 70, or what is that? 11 stone on the scales in February this year. It's the first time in my life.
It's like a celebration, isn't it?
That I've ever weighed. For me, it was like, yes! Yeah, like people on the scales, they want to go down, right? And I want to go up, up, up. And I was like, finally, I'm getting somewhere. And then like I had the flu twice last month, and now I'm back to 10.5 stone.
Well, me, it was always between the 8 and 9 stone mark. So,
right.
You could see my ribcage at one point. I was just...
8 stone 13. That was my weight during my 20s. Because that's why I kept getting cast as a transsexual in like TV and film things. Because you could see all the bones, the collarbones, everything was delicate. But yeah, I remember feeling like the odd one out. Like I joined the local athletics team, and these guys were maybe a year older than me, or the same age, but they hit puberty before I did. They were more developed. Their musculature was developing because they did sports a lot more. I was crap at sports. I hated sports. You weren't really into sports.
No, I
think.
wasn't.
Yeah, so
I played volleyball, so I played what you would see as
girls'
female sports.
Yeah.
Volleyball,
Yeah,
gymnastics is the ones that I liked, but
Yeah.
I'd never get changed into the boys' changing rooms either. I would go away and hide in a toilet and get changed.
Because
it was just uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable being around other people.
That's interesting. Because I would always go in the corner. I wouldn't go into a different space. Never thought of that. But I went into the corner because I got bullied quite, especially in primary school. And if then we had physical education, sometimes we'd go to a swimming pool.
Right.
And we just swim. But they would always, try to pretend drown me sort of thing. And then in the changing room, they would wet their towels.
Yeah.
And they would hit me with the wet towels. And they'd shout, "Wij willen bloed zien, wij willen bloed zien." We want to see blood, we want to see blood. And then they'd say, "I wanted to be a woman." And the word for woman that they use isn't a nice word for woman. We say wijf. Wijf is like, I guess the English word wife comes from that, as in when you're married to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But in Dutch, that's not a good word. It's like a slur. But yeah, that's what guys like us. That's part of
being gay and growing up, sadly.
Gay like us. So yeah. So you have an experience that kind of derails you.
Yeah.
Quite drastically. Did your parents, because when you say I was homeless, I was couch surfing and stuff, what was your parents' attitude at the time? Because surely that's the last thing they want to see is your kid being
they tried.
Distraught.
Sorry, they tried to support me as best as they could, but I think I just got to the point of not being able to be supported. I had to deal with it in my way.
Yeah.
And even if they put out all the support for me, I would have still went and dealt with it in my way, So I think as a parent, you just get to the point where you're like, well, I'll be here when you're ready.
Right.
But I can't watch this type of thing.
Yeah.
I could phone up my mum and dad and say, "Oh, I've not ate anything," and they'd be like, "Well, come down and we'll feed you and clothe you and let you whatever." They'd always be there at a phone call, but ultimately, at this point, I'm an adult. They can't tell me not to go out and drink. I'm 18. They can't tell me not to leave the house. I'm 18. What could they really do? So they just kind of had to let me go and do what I needed to do and just hope that I come back one day.
Then you fall in with this LGBTQ sort of queer crowd. What was happening in the media at the time? What was on TV or in the news about sort of trans people that you might have seen that made you go because what sort of year was this? You were sort of 18-ish, so that's...
Yes, 2010.
Right. Okay, so the early 2000s, sort of 2000 to 2010, this is where the trans stuff started sort of ramping up on TV with various TV shows. That's when the trans child stuff started coming out. But we weren't quite at the point of, Bruce Jenner. That was later.
Yeah.
And what's the other one from Orange is the New Black?
Levine Cox.
So that was
fucking ironic.
And the transgender tipping point, I think that was 2015. So we weren't quite there yet.
Yes, but do you... I don't know if you would remember the very first... I think it was the first season of Big Brother.
Yeah.
And we had...
Nadia.
That
was 2004.
So that was my very first time of seeing a transsexual in real life.
Yeah.
Was him on the TV.
And then when did the idea of Caitlin form?
It was off of the back of Laurie when we had came back. Well, when I had came back up to Scotland, and the group that I was in, there were a couple of us that were like gender bending type things, you know, experimenting with makeup and different clothes and shoes, and you know, these older kind of gays were planting the seed, like, oh, that's, I know someone that's transsexual, and then we would meet them and, oh yeah, yous are definitely trans, and
Right, so it wasn't just the trans characters doing it, but also the gay men.
yeah.
Right. And you said they were a bit older.
Yeah, yeah, they would have been, what, 10, 15 year older?
Wow.
So, you know, it was a weird state of affairs, so to speak. It was like you lived in a bubble with these people, and there were no one else in that bubble. You know, if you weren't in the group, you were on the group. It's the same, what is it, if you're not in the club, you're at the door waiting to get in the club. Well, I was in the club.
Yeah.
And I wished I was the person waiting at the door to get into the club, because then I would never have been involved. But they were the ones that kind of told me how I go about getting referrals and stuff. They didn't tell me what to say to get the referral, or, you know, what to say in any of my appointments. But they were the ones that was like, oh, well, you go to your doctor and they just put a wee bit of paper in, and you'll see a gender specialist.
Right.
So that's where it kind of all started down. That was obviously...
Like there's a path.
2022. And
in that sort of bubble, as you mention it, did you think, oh, if I go from young gay guy to young trans woman, will I become more elevated within this bubble? Or less judged as a gay man?
I don't think I did, no. I think what it was more, I can start a new life away from the trauma that Michael has.
Right.
You know, I can leave that there. Then no one will ever need to know about that then. Because obviously when that happened, I felt less than. Like, felt less than a man. I felt used, disgusted. Nobody would want to love me when they find that out. So let me just start a new life completely. And, you know, they didn't sell it, but they told me about this, and then in my head, dots were connecting, and I was like, well, this is the start. This is how I create this new life that I want.
Right.
You know, it's going to be my saving grace. It's going to save me from everything. And that's why I went down the path of it.
So that traumatic event, did you ever get trauma therapy for that?
No.
Okay.
Nothing. I did do CPD, CBT.
Cognitive behavioural therapy,
yeah. But it was never based around trauma.
Yeah, because that needs something much more specific, especially if it's had such an impact on your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was never based. I never ever received any kind of trauma. I had CPN nurses, but again, I seen them twice and they signed me off.
Right.
They were never...
You'll be fine now.
Yeah. The only thing that they told me was, oh, you've got an eating disorder. And that was it.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, you're not going to help me? And they're like, no, we'll put a referral in for counselling.
Yeah, and there's a McDonald's across the road.
And it was pretty much like, well, you know, it's any time that I asked for any kind of help, it felt like I was just being abandoned by these people that were supposed to help. Or if not abandoned, I was just seen as a number. So we need to get you in the door and get you out the door as quick as possible.
Yeah.
You know.
And what eating disorder did you have?
It was my relationship with food. I would only eat if I was going to pass out. I didn't enjoy food, but if I, felt sick or dizzy, or if I was going to pass out, then I would be like, right, I'll need to eat something now. But I would have maybe like toast with sugar on it, because it gave you instant energy and take that sick feeling away.
And it was more of a chore. What did you think that food was going to do to you if you ate properly?
Well, at this point, I'd always kind of been skinny, so I was worried now if I started eating, now that I'm older, metabolism slowing down, well, I can't get fat anymore because I'm skinny, I need to be skinny.
Okay. Wow.
And I was too busy drinking.
Right.
To think about food.
Okay. So you're a kid with issues.
So childhood was
drugs.
Fabulous. Brilliant childhood. Couldn't have asked and been brought up better. Hit 18, start experimenting the nightlife as a young adult. And then the first kind of issue that I got was sexual assault at the age of 18, and then it just plumps.
Nosedived. And was that person ever caught or?
So the last contact that I had from the police was that there wasn't enough to bring it to court. I've since heard through the grapevine, the gossip of the gay scenes, that he had went on to do it to a couple of other people. But, you know, it's gossip through the gay scene.
Yeah. And this was a man?
Yes. Yes. So unfortunately, you know, it was a state of no justice. It was, you know, I didn't get any closure from it, because there's no going to court and, you know, him being sentenced or charged, or it was just a case of the police was like, well, we don't have anything, so we're not going to do anything about it.
Right. And then other services you feel kind of leave you hanging. Here's the bubble with the drugs and the booze and the friends. You're probably trans. And this is how you get to the gender clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So then there comes a point where you go to your doctor and you want a referral to the clinic. So that would have been the Sandyford clinic here in Scotland?
In Glasgow, yeah, Sandyford.
Okay. How did you feel when you got the referral?
Excited. A kind of euphoric feeling of, I'm nearly there. I just need to get this magic pill and it'll make everything better. You know, that, right, this is the start of it, so let me now curate this life. As I says, I had got the job working where I was working at the time. I'd got that job, so I wasn't in Glasgow as much because I had to keep home base and be, you know, ready to go to work. But where I stayed, there were other people that I could kind of cling on to and drink with and take drugs with.
Right, so that just continued.
Yeah, so I just moved from one friendship group to another friendship group. The only difference was this wasn't just an LGBT friendship group. These were, you know, primarily women or straight men. So it was the kind of dynamic shift. But at this point, I was already in the I'm Caitlin mode, so they just affirmed. They didn't know anything else, you know, they've been taught to love and accept, so let me just affirm this person, you know, they didn't ask any questions.
And did you have an expectation of I'm going to actually sort of change sex, I'm going to become a real woman? Or did you, you didn't have a thing like I'll never be an actual woman, but I'll get as close as I can?
Unfortunately, when I started, I thought, you know, right, I'll take these hormones and I'll get lady features is what I would think, and then I'll get my neo vagina, and, you know, then I'll be a real woman and no one will ever be able to tell because I'll get the face feminized. And, you know, I was having these thoughts really early on, like, oh, I'll get my hairline dropped down to here so that it, you know, it's closer to my eyebrows, and I'll get my eyebrows lifted, and then I'll chisel my jaw in, and, you know, and at this point I've just got a referral in.
But you knew about these things?
Yeah, because as soon as I put the referral in, I was like, right, I must look into everything now.
Right, and then were there, like I just call them blokes, right? Were there particular blokes that you looked at and you're like, that's who I want to look like, or maybe an actual woman, like...
No, I don't think
like
there
a supermodel or something, like because like Munro Bergdorf, he was obsessed with supermodels, and you know that kind of explains why he's gone down the surgery route as much as he has. Like he wanted to be the new Naomi Campbell or something.
I mean, I don't think that, like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, we would see, you know, Kate Moss and these models and how their face was structured, and I was like, well, if my face was structured like that, then I would look more feminine, you know. But I don't think that there were any one particular person that I would be like, this is what I want to look like. It was more seeing the features of, like, the feminine features on people's faces and being like, oh well, I know how I want this to look. So, you know, I'll go and tell the doctors that you need to bring this down and you need to put that up and you need to tweak this back. And yeah, I had full plans of telling the doctors how to do the work.
Okay. You go to your doctor, he gives you a referral to the gender clinic, but then is there somebody else in the process that says, well, hold on, we need to just have like a mental health check on this person first? No.
So I, as you know, it was a 2-year wait at that time. I think it's now 7 years or something, but it was a 2-year wait at that time for the appointment. And I would phone up Sandyford and I would, tell them on the phone, if you don't put me on these hormones, I'm going to kill myself. So then they would be like, oh, go back to your GP, we can't see you yet. So then they would contact my GP and say, Caitlin's phoned up in distress, can we kind of touch base? And then I'd get a phone call from the doctor saying, what's up? I would tell the doctor, and the doctor put a referral into the mental health services in the area that I was in. But then says, otherwise, we can't help you. It's a specialist thing, so there's nothing, the doctor could do. All we can do is just put referrals in. It's like, right, so I would then go and see the mental health services. I got rushed in to see them, and the mental health services would say, oh, well, we can't help you with that. It's because of your gender dysphoria. You need to see Sandyford. So then they would go back to Sandyford and tell Sandyford, Caitlin needs to see you. This is specialist. We can't help with this thing. And,
right.
Bearing in mind at this point, I'm still drinking. I'm still taking drugs. I'm at the level of vulnerability that someone needs to step in and say, enough is enough. Like, some sort of mental health needs to be done.
Yeah, and we need an intervention.
Yeah.
Not being passed around with nobody offering any solutions.
Yeah.
So there was a 2-year wait to even be seen by the Sandyford.
Yes.
Then you finally get seen.
Yep.
So,
well, the one thing that I'd point out, just in the 2 years, at this point, I cut my parents off. So I came out as, trans, and my name's now Caitlin, and obviously they were, well, you choose to do what you do with your life, but don't expect us to see you as anything but our son.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Saving grace, to be fair, now that I look back on it. But, they were very much, you're always going to be Michael to us. You're always going to be our son. If you want to go down that path, go down it. We'll never put you in harm's way if you're ever out with us, but don't look for affirmation from us, sort of thing. They didn't use the word affirmation, but they you're not going to get anything off of us.
Yeah.
So I was of the opinion was, well, if you don't affirm me, you're against me. So cut off. So I didn't even have family to turn to at this point either, because I was so stubborn and set on everyone must affirm me, everyone must use she, her pronouns, everyone must call me Caitlin, and if you don't, I'm just cutting you clean right out of my life.
So with all this stuff going on in your life, the people that anchored you or could have anchored you, you cut them loose.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is quite sad to look back on. There were a good few years where I didn't speak to, as you said, the ones that would actually have my back in life, And then referral came to the top of the list in Sandyford, and I got my first appointment through the door. My first appointment was this summer of 2020, and I attended the appointment. It was with a psychologist who recommended that I was given therapy. In the notes, if you look through, you'll see in the notes that the recommendation was for therapy, but said that I showed signs of gender dysphoric behaviour. I think they actually called it transsexualism.
In those days,
that's what they used. Transsexualism diagnosis.
And at this point, were you actually like really despising your body?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I still do. 33 years old, and I still have a distaste to what I see, the aesthetics that I see.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever gender dysphoria, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, they would talk about, obviously, what I spoke about my childhood. We spoke about that. I came from a loving family, but ultimately I was highly uncomfortable throughout my puberty. Looking at the wording that they've put on it, it's Caitlin showed up in feminine clothing, Caitlin had feminine hairstyles, Caitlin wore feminine makeup. Like, it just sounds like a gay man.
Well, you showed me your medical papers earlier.
Yeah.
And some of the letters. And it just baffles me that these are professionals, supposedly, right? These are the experts. But they're using various stereotypical ideas of what is feminine, what is masculine, And just because you're a guy who likes feminine stuff, it doesn't mean you're a woman. It doesn't prove anything really, other than that you don't stick to stereotypical boxes.
Yeah. And I think there was one thing that actually you pointed out that didn't jump out to me because I've been reading through it, and it was it not about that Caitlin didn't play football?
Yes, yeah, we just saw that. Here's a guy, he likes wearing girly stuff and doing girly things, and he doesn't like football. That's it, woman.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually didn't stick out to me when I was reading them through, so I'm glad you picked up on that. But now looking back on it after I've experienced it, I'm like, these are just stereotypes. Stereotypes littered with homophobia.
Even if you look at the DSM-5 and the description of gender dysphoria, like one of the key points is likes to play with toys normally associated with the other sex. It's like, and?
No, I played
like to me, it feels like it's such a conformist.
Yes,
The whole idea is about conforming.
I think it's hypocritical because at one point they're saying, well, you don't need to conform, but then at another point you're conforming with the stereotypes that we assign to female instead of male.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, are we not meant to conform, or we are meant to conform with the other? It's like, where are we drawing the conclusion?
And having spoken to friends I had in the past who've gone down this path, like one did that at least 30 years ago, they would say that they would, dress up even more girly or so-called feminine, because that would make it easier for them to get the drugs.
Yeah.
And there was another guy called Eli. He's still quite young. Like, he went to the gender clinic in Leeds, and they would go, oh, that's not really particularly feminine what you're wearing today. So they use that to question whether he actually had issues at all. So it's the same thing.
Just pigeonholing him into a stereotype again.
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
now what will he do? Well, he'll go home and he'll start buying more effeminate clothing and then just showing up in a set outfit every time.
Might not wear those clothes at all, only for the clinic visits. And then the clinic goes, well, there you go, a skirt.
It's like your Sunday best, but just for the gender clinics.
Yes. And obviously people, they start figuring out, oh, this is how it works, so we'll play the game because we want what we want. Not because it's what they need, but it's because that's what you thought. Well, that's what you thought you needed. And when you phoned them up and you said, that's it, I'm going to kill myself, like, did you actually mean that? Or did you just know that would have was that just to get the ball rolling?
I don't think I would have ever done it, but then, I was so engrossed in drink and alcohol that maybe I actually might have. But it wouldn't have been me wanting to do it. It would have been the drink and the alcohol, because I had, hit this deep depression with everything that was going on, that the only way out was that. But I also think that it was an element of asking for help.
Yeah.
Like, if someone's coming to you and saying, I'm going to kill myself, what's the first instinct for any medical professional to do is, we must help. It's do no damage.
Yeah.
So why would you then let a patient, and even if I wasn't registered with them at this point, I'm just on a waiting list, but why would you let someone that was vulnerable say this to you without, we've got a thing, it's welfare checks in Scotland. So if you're a medical professional and you think someone's at immediate risk, you're supposed to phone the police.
Okay.
And you're supposed to get a welfare check done and make sure that person, because this was a clinic at the other side of Glasgow. They couldn't then come to me, but the police could.
Yes.
They could then get mental health services involved, maybe take me to the hospital if I needed. None of these steps were taken. No suicide prevention, harm risk reduction, none of these normal criteria that medical professionals are supposed to take when they have someone saying that they're suicidal were ever taken.
And did they not go, oh, this guy, did they knew about the assault and the drinking and the drugs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they knew about it all. And nowhere in it did they say, they asked me actually about the use, and I think I did tell them that I wasn't drinking at the time, but I showed up smelling of vodka because I had been drinking vodka on the train going over. But they knew that I was taking drugs. I openly said to them I was taking drugs.
And you mustn't have looked particularly healthy.
It's underweight, and you know, if I can show you photos of what I looked like with makeup on, I was even more sunken in than a skeleton. It was diabolical, you know. And they knew that I was on drugs at the time. They had asked me about my drug usage. And I was like, oh yes, I smoke cannabis every single day, all day, every day. You know, so they knew that there were these comorbidities. You know, they knew that I had self-harmed previously. They knew that I had attempted overdosing. You know, they even have it in my notes where they speak about how, you know, that I phoned them and I was, aggressive and
angry
and argumentative and different things. But yet they want to medicalise someone that's so erratic and unstable.
Someone who's so erratic is already taking lots of substances. Now they want to introduce other substances into your system instead of, mate, go home, grow some vegetables, have some fruit.
Pot a plant, like just not that type of plant either.
Yeah, not that cannabis Caitlin.
Like cannabis Caitlin. Brilliant. It's like a superhero for wheat.
With a wheat, what do you call it? A cape.
Oh God.
A hemp cape. Oh, I mean, you gotta laugh. So then comes the point that they're like, okay, right, we're gonna medicalize you.
Yes.
Now, so at this point, you've socially transitioned for 2 years.
Yeah.
What was sort of day-to-day life like? How did people respond to you? Just in the streets, or did you get looks? Did you get comments, or did?
Oh yeah. So you know, I would get the looks of the people walking down, people shouting names. In my work note, you know, everybody addressed me as Caitlin, she, her. And at this point, I was using female-only spaces, which I'm very appalled that I did. But I was warped into, you know, this is what I have to do. I have to go into these spaces. You know, so I would be using the toilets with females, and you know, I was trying to live as much of the female life as a male could, which now I know is absolutely nothing. But at that time, this all made me a female if I was to be integrated into this space, you know.
Was there ever anyone, for example, in the ladies that you could sense were uncomfortable with you being there?
Yes. I say yes, but I use it loosely because everybody knew me in the work, so they knew, you know, I'm just a gay man, you know, I'm going through a difficult time and thinking that I'm going to transition, you know, so they knew I was no risk, but, you know, they also wanted their own space. I could tell that, you know, I would walk in, there would be people at the sinks, and I'd try and keep my head down and just rush into the cubicle and then, you know, come out and wash my hands and then leave straight away. I wouldn't hang around in that space or anything, but, you know, I would walk in, and I think there were on one occasion that someone new had started, and I went in and, you know, they were like, oh, you're not supposed to, and then they kind of just looked me up and down and was like, oh no, don't worry, and I was like, oh, you know, that way I was like, I was more annoyed at this person clocking me than I was
thinking about what it was like for them.
You know, but I was so warped, I was so wrapped up into you must. And then I think after that incident, I kind of gravitated more to using the disabled toilet in work.
Okay.
But that obviously was on the ground floor and I was up the stairs, so, you know, it was the only reason that I went into the toilet was because it was closer to the desk.
And at the time, you had a very clear picture in your head of, I want to get this changed and that changed and that changed. Was the idea of passing, was that important to you at the time?
Yeah. I didn't want to look trans. I wanted to look female.
Right, so you were fully invested in that.
And then I would look at, you know, other people that, you know, I know Pete Burns was just Pete Burns. He was an anomaly, but I'd look at Pete Burns and I'd think I wouldn't go that far with surgery, you know. I can't do that. I can't go that far with it. I need to make sure that I go to that level, but not go over that line, you know.
And what about your voice?
I was going to get voice feminisation surgery and the classes that they give you through the NHS. And
through the NHS even, they give you classes?
Yeah, they send you away for voice therapy. So you would, or speech therapy it's called,
Yeah.
sorry. So you would go away for speech therapy before being assessed for that type of surgery. Because if you can teach yourself to do it, then they won't give you the surgery. But if you can't, then they'll give you the surgery.
Right, so it's not only that you're like, well, this about me isn't right, but I can change it, I can do this, I can do that. It's that even the system itself encourages you.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, going back to the stereotypes, women can't sound like this or that.
Yeah.
I mean, women can have deep voices, obviously, but there's a difference between a woman with a deep voice and a man with a voice, with a man's voice.
Yeah, and it's the same with, they potentially will offer you top surgery as a trans-identified man, but only if the hormones doesn't do the job. Then you know, it's not, I think some people think it's kind of automatic that you get X, Y and Z done, but it isn't. They try and restrict it somehow.
Well, so one of the men that I know who went down this path a few years ago, 8 years ago now, and I first knew him just, before he went down that path. And he, in one conversation we had, he said it was a form of misogyny that women who think they're men can get a double mastectomy on the NHS, but that men who think they're women don't automatically get a boob job on the NHS. So he said it's misogyny. And I'm like, here's a man
saying it's misogynistic. Make it make sense.
Yeah, but again, that shows just how warped things have become for them. So then comes the point that you get the medication. So in your case, that would have been an androgen blocker, so you don't produce testosterone anymore.
So it was in. So that was the first appointment. Then I had the second one. So we left the first one with, you're going to need counselling.
Okay.
Went to the second one. Went through pretty much everything we did in the first one with a second doctor, because you get the 2 doctors you need. And then he said at the end of it, no, I'm happy. We're going to just put you on blockers. No therapy, no counselling. We'll just put you straight onto hormones. Even though it says in black and white, recommended for therapy.
And how much time was there between those 2 appointments?
So the first one was about June-ish, summertime. The second one was in November. No, it wasn't. It was October. Okay.
So less than half a year.
Yeah.
So in less than half a year, you're on the medical path.
Yeah.
Without the counselling. Mm-hmm. On the NHS, I'm paying for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
What? Okay, so you get your hands on the medication.
Yes.
And you told me earlier, there's different ways of getting it. There's patches, there's gels, there's tablets, there's pumps and all sorts of things for the estrogen side of things. How does it actually physically feel when you start going on the meds? And so as a male, you're naturally used to producing a certain level of testosterone. When that decreases and when the estrogen comes in, is it like a jolt and you can feel it straight away, or does it sort of slowly build up?
It's gradual.
So like, does it start coursing through your veins? And
you become an estrogen monster. Whoa. So
more like, whoa.
It is a kind of gradual build. You go through a honeymoon period. You've got this magic medicine that's going to make it all better. This is what you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So it's that euphoric behaviour, and I'm now taking this. I'm now a woman because I've got more estrogen in my body than another man does.
So that's much more a placebo effect.
But also comes the mood instability. The temperature changes. The kind of erratic emotional behaviour where, you could be just relaxing and you're just overwhelmingly sad, or you're extremely irritated, and it's kind of this erratic emotions of up and down way.
And you're already quite
mentally
erratic
unstable.
and depressed. Yes.
What? Mentally unstable I was.
So this is like putting that on steroids, but not steroids, but estrogen. Okay.
Exactly. So it's like, it's feeding the dragon the meat that he needs. So I'm like this. 1 minute I'm fine, the next minute I'm crying at the Andrex puppy advert, and the next time I'm screaming and shouting at my neighbour down the stair because his telly was too loud, and the emotions were everywhere. And it's like, But you're not getting any therapy. You're not getting any outlet. You're not getting anywhere or anybody to talk to. So you've been put onto these. Sandyford's isn't giving you another appointment for 3 months. They need you on this hormone for 3 months. You get blood works done after 3 months.
So those appointments wouldn't even be to check in. Is Caitlin okay? No, it's just the blood levels. So again, you're not a person. You're just blood levels and hormone levels.
So you would, and then COVID had happened at this point. So my 2 appointments that I had were face-to-face, but now we've shifted from face-to-face to telephone.
Right.
You'd go into a call with them and it would just be, oh, how are you feeling? Yeah, I'm feeling fine. All right, okay, well, let's have a look at your records.
Because also, did you know that if you said, I don't feel fine, that maybe that would then stop your
I couldn't
medication?
I didn't know that, but I would surmise that if I told them, oh, I'm feeling a bit emotional or erratic, or, you know, then I'd be like, oh, they're going to take this magic pill away from me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say I'm fine. I'm fine. Oh, everything's fine. It's great. It's rosy. It's, you know, I'm excelling in life. I'm becoming the woman I've always meant to be.
Wow.
You know, and as I says, it's mainly right. So I'm looking at your levels. Your levels aren't going up as we expect them to do. So we're going to change your medication. I also took, I was on patches to begin with.
Yeah.
And I took an allergic reaction to the patch, whatever glue they use on it.
Yeah.
I took an allergic reaction to that, but I didn't tell them because I didn't want them to take it off me. But then I told them in this appointment, you know, and I was like, oh, I'm having these rashes, and I would show, and it would be red and sore and swollen, and they're like, yeah, I think you're allergic. How long's that been happening? I says, oh, the full time. I says, but I just thought it was normal. Nobody warned me that you could potentially have an allergy to the glue. So I just thought it was, you know, normal. It was itchy, so I would scratch on it, and so then I went from the patches to the gel that I would put onto my thigh and have to swap over to thighs. But yeah, my body never seemed to respond to actual estrogen. It never. Funny that a man's body not responding to estrogen. Who'd have thought?
I mean, some bodies do. Some men's bodies do. Some men put on loads of weight. I think you mentioned earlier that once they found a certain dosage, then...
Yes, I went from 8 stone to 15 stone within 12 months.
From 8 to 15? So you nearly doubled?
Yes, within 12 months. Such a short period of time.
And for someone who's had an eating disorder and who wanted to be skinny, how was that really like distressing at the time?
It still is. I'm still, you know, trying to lose a bit of the weight. I don't want to go back to obviously where I was because I was unhealthy, but you know, it was like it's looking at myself in the mirror and seeing, you know, my belly's growing and my thighs are growing, and you know, I was told that these are fat distributors, so your fat's going to distribute into the place where women tend to hold, but no one told me that, you know, my metabolism would slow right down, so every little thing that I ate would just convert into fat. So I'm eating quite regularly at this point. I'm starting to actually get an appetite.
So that's a good thing. Then it has this other effect. You didn't feel that was sort of affirming? Oh, I'm getting hips now, or a butt?
I did, but I also was worried that it was, you know, I was getting so big so quick.
Right.
You know, no, it's
It reminds me of that scene from Harry Potter
where
the woman blows up and flies away.
But that was me. I was Aunt Petunia. I was sitting eating that pie thinking I'm not putting weight on, and then 2 weeks later I'm floating through the skies of Glasgow. I swear.
Caitlin in the sky of Glasgow.
But it was, but along with that came a lot of problems. So then I started getting sore knees. You know, like my heart was racing all the time. Like I would get out of breath going up and down the stairs. You know, so I was getting all of these issues and that I'd never had. And the only thing that changed was being on this medication.
Right. And they'd never told you about those type of side effects?
No. It's a weight distributor. So, you know, it will put weight on. So they give me an offer to freeze my sperm. Do you want kids? I was asked at the appointment.
Yeah.
You know, these are 2 30-minute appointments and they're, do you want kids? Well, luckily enough, you know, I've never kind of wanted to have children of my own. I'm quite set in stone that way. Even before I started on this path, I'm like, children's just not for me. About that, they told me about the risk of breast cancer. It's greater than, you know, someone not taking estrogen that's male, but not as high as, you know, women. Okay. Heart attacks, I'll be at a higher risk of taking a heart attack. Blood pressures, higher risk of having high blood pressure.
Right.
So these were kind of the side effects that they kind of said, but ultimately they didn't know what I would be like in 40-year time if I stayed on estrogen. No one could tell me what my body would look like after 40 years on estrogen, because you don't come off of estrogen. You know, you're a lifelong patient of estrogen.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, at this point, because you had quite a sort of a rigid idea, it seems, of I'm going to be female, like an actual woman, and this is the look I want, and these are the things I have to change. How at this point did you feel about your bits? Were you like, get rid?
I was, yeah. I was very much, it needs to be gone, because that's not what females got, so I don't want it. You know, but I never had that feeling with it until I started this process. I didn't like it, I was uncomfortable with it, especially during puberty, but I didn't feel like it should necessarily be taken until I went into this. And then I'm like, right, well, that's what this process is all about. The end goal is to have, you know, your penis inverted, so let's just get rid of it and to put it inside out.
So the idea was kind of planted in a certain social circle that you were in. Then you start going to the specialists, and that sort of funnels you down a path that you hadn't necessarily imagined.
Yeah, because they asked me in the appointments, like, what was your goal for this? And I thought, well, you know, what's the goal for any other, you know, trans-identified man? Well, it's to get bottom surgery into it. This is what the norm is start your hormones, get the surgeries, live your life.
And had you looked into how they do it, like the different
Not at
procedures?
that point,
okay.
No. At that point, I didn't. You know, I was just like, take it away. Because I did think that they actually removed it. At this point, you know, I know they removed some parts of it, but I thought all of it goes and they just kind of create this neo-vagina out of what you had there. And
no one will ever know.
And nobody would never know. I didn't know about, you know, what they have to do when they get that neo-vagina. And I don't even want to think about it. Yeah.
And you narrowly escaped that, but we'll get to that in a bit. So during this time, are you dating? Are you falling in love? Or?
Yeah, so I ended up meeting someone, 4 years together, got engaged.
Engaged even?
As Caitlin. But this individual, so for the 2 years, at the start of my medicalization for 2 years, I was very affirm me. You know, and then I kind of started speaking to my family again. Okay. And it was, you know, my family that grounded me again. As I says, they're the anchor. They actually grounded me, and they're like, well, why do we need to affirm you? Is it going to change your life? Are you going to stop? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, well, why are you looking for everybody else to affirm you?
And were they quite sort of down to earth about it? Or
I mean,
did it
they
get
still
heated
called
and
me
aggressive?
Michael. You know, but I think I just came to the realisation that I would rather have my parents in my life than not have them at all. And if that meant, you know, accepting them still seeing me as their son, then who am I to question it? They gave me life.
And to shut the door on the love
exactly.
that they have for you.
Exactly, like they were the ones to give me life, like, and I just came to that realisation. But ultimately the person that I was dating seen himself as a straight man and seen me as a woman. Yeah. So he would get more upset when he heard my parents calling me Michael.
Oh, that's funny, sorry.
You know.
That's like is it Mike Lee? You know that filmmaker? He's a British filmmaker, and he always makes films about very just real life stuff. It's like the anti-Hollywood films, right? It's all very real people, sort of working class, common people, and just the situations. But it's all done in a really real way, right? The comedy, there's comedy in there, but it's never set up as a comedy. And this sounds like exactly one of those scenes where you have Caitlin swanning in, and your mum going, all right, Michael, and your dad going, Michael, and then your fiance, rah! she's a woman.
That was reality, really, wasn't it? Like,
Right. And did you feel like, oh, I'm a straight woman now? I've left my, because Michael was a gay boy, but that's in the past. Michael's gone.
At that time I did. Yeah, but
Wow.
because I seen myself as a woman, so I couldn't be a gay man still.
And if you looked in the mirror, were you like, I see a woman, or were you like, oh, I still see a man?
Yeah, it was. If I looked, I wouldn't have mirrors to be fair, but if I looked in the mirror and when I was getting ready, I'd be like, oh, this, I'm just critiquing every little thing. I'm going to change this. I'm going to do that. And,
Okay.
I'd sit there and I'd pull my face up and pull this back and raise my eyebrows. How high do I want them?
Yeah.
It becomes all-consuming.
Yes.
Like, this idea of passing becomes so all-consuming that nothing else seems like actual reality anymore other than the life that you're living. That's now reality.
Yeah, you're in deep. And yet you're here
Yes.
talking to me now. So there was another huge shift that
shift.
happened. Let me just see if there's anything else that I want to ask about. Oh, right. So at the time, sort of politically, where were things... Because 2019 is when I kind of went, oh, hang on, what's going on? And started looking into things. So 2020, things started popping up in the news.
Yep.
It was more sort of, not on the, it wasn't The Guardian. They were all putting out the pro-trans stuff. And most of the media was. So how did you think we're in a transphobic society? What was sort of your perception of where things were at the time and what you were part of?
I didn't know because up in Scotland it's very it was at the time, the SNP still are very pro-trans, so it was getting down the route of self-identification was now becoming a thing, and they're talking about changing the laws as to getting the GRC, the gender recognition certificate, and making it easier for people. And so these are the things that I'm hearing up here. So it's all pro. There's not really many people at this point talking out and being anti, and I wouldn't even call it anti, I'd call it more reality based. So, I'm in this bubble, I'm living my life. Who's going to save me from this ideology?
And did you think at the time we live in I'm part of this marginalised, oppressed?
Yeah. Right. So I went from thinking that I'm an oppressed gay man to, well, I'm even more of a minority now. So I'm everybody's oppressive. If they don't affirm me, they hate me, so they're oppressing me, so they're instantly transphobic.
Right.
Instantly transphobic. Oh, I was a bitch. Oh, see now looking back at it, I'm like,
And that's all protecting yourself.
Yeah.
See, this is where I wonder. Sometimes I have these. I have these argy-bargies on X, right? Where there's this bloke, like even this morning. Oh, there's a few, and then suddenly they pop up, and I'm like, where do they come from? Why are there so many? I'm like, trans women are real women, and I'm like, no, they're blokes. And then I'm like, well, what good does this do? Is this gonna change their mind? Like, if I was talking to you in your Caitlin days, what is it that I could say?
Nothing.
That would get through?
Nothing. At that point, you wouldn't have been able to say anything to me. You would have just been transphobic.
So you're right in the middle of everything. You're so invested in it. Mm-hmm. Were you still doing the drugs and the drinking at this time? Or?
No, I'd kind of went and sought help for myself at this point, and obviously I'm in that relationship now, so, he's kind of navigated myself out of it. I'd completely cut drinking out, so I'd stopped at this point completely. I'm down to just smoking cannabis, but eventually that stopped also. I went from one extreme to the next because I cut out drinking, smoking, taking drugs.
Yeah.
I cut all of that out. I'm working from home, so it's like the drug that I'm now obsessive over was estrogen and blockers.
As in testosterone blockers? Yeah.
Testosterone blockers, yeah. So this is kind of moved, although it's not,
it's just transferred, right?
Yeah.
And when you're on it for a while, then did you start, did your bit stop working, basically? And when it did, were you like, this is good because I'm a woman now and a woman shouldn't get erections?
So it actually doesn't stop working.
Okay.
So even, after being on it for so long, you can still have an erection. I mean, it lowers your sex drive an astronomical amount.
Okay.
But the functionality of it is still there. You don't produce sperm. It kind of stops the production of sperm, but everything else kind of works in the same manner of it. But I'd never want to use it or see it or touch it.
Right. And so would you like wake up with morning, would it go, oh?
No, that kind of stopped.
Yeah.
It was more of if, we were doing something, then,
your body responds.
Yeah, it was potential for the body to respond. But yeah, people think that it just automatically stops working after a point, and it doesn't.
Okay. Does that maybe depend per person? Does it vary?
I think it could, yes. But ultimately, regardless of the person, the functionality of the object is still the same.
Right.
So when people tell you it totally takes the ability to have an erection away, it doesn't for anyone.
Right. And what then started bringing in an awareness of 5 years in, 7 years in terms of if you include the social transition.
Yeah.
So 7 years, the 7-year itch. What gave you the 7-year itch?
So I had always had doubts throughout the transition. There was always just something at the back of my head that would say, this isn't right, this isn't for you, especially when I kind of came away from that scene and the drinking and the drug taking, and my mind was starting to get clearer, and and I'm like, there's something just not right with this. I'm doing something wrong here to my body. So I would say, I'm having these doubts, and I'd be told, by the clinical, these are normal doubts. Don't worry about it. We'll progress through. The doubts are normal, and so I'm just thinking, this is just part and parcel of what it is. When I have the surgery, the doubts will go away. But it was ultimately me and my ex now had split up this year. I was a carer for him, so I had more time, more free time.
Yes.
I was able to sit with these doubts a bit longer, and something inside me just told me that there's just something not right here. So I'm trying to fill up my day, so I ended up going on, that TikTok app, and I'm scrolling through, and I've came across a content creator, Envy, and she's a TERF. She's talking about this trans ideology and how it's harmful, and then I hear something about detransitioners, and I'm like, what's a detransitioner? So then I'm listening contently even more. So we ended up touching base.
What was her name?
Envy.
Envy. Okay.
Envy, yeah. So we ended up touching base, and she's like, I would love for you to come up onto the panel. And I'm like, right. But now at this point, I'm quite GC beliefs at this point. So I've stopped using female restrooms.
Okay.
I don't no longer see myself as female, but I still see myself as a trans woman at this point.
Right.
So I'm not a man, but I'm also not a woman. I'm a subcategory.
Right. So you went from you must affirm me, I am a real
Yes.
woman, I want to do everything I can to become female, to kind of having a bit more of a foot on the ground.
Yeah, because my family though, because they blatantly refused to affirm me, and my life still kept rolling. My world didn't dramatically stop. So I seen this from close, loved family, that they don't need to affirm me for me to go. So I'm like, well, I don't need affirmation from anyone else now. I just affirm myself. So if wee Bob down the pub calls me, a he, him, it's not really going to have an effect on my life at the end of the day. I'll just keep the ball moving. I don't need to stand there shouting at wee Bob that's 70-year-old just enjoying these pint and he's transphobic.
I'm a woman. It's
It's ma'am.
It is ma'am.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
because also, had you seen some of those
Yes.
clips and then gone, I don't want to be like that.
Games Shop, I think it's called. I seen that one. I seen the Jonathan Yeneves of the world, but then I had also seen like the Blair Whites.
Yeah.
Blair White is the example that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, this trans-identified man, or they say trans woman, that's grounded, knew where they came from. Listen, I didn't know Blair White that well, but now I do. You know, but in my opinion, they were grounded at that point. You know,
when I first came across Blair and Buck Angel, I was like, oh, thank God. You know, they're talking sense,
people.
and they acknowledge this and they acknowledge that, and now I'm like,
yes,
they're also the ones, as you say, putting out the dream image. This is what you can achieve. Look how well it worked for me. It saved my life.
Yeah,
I'm successful and famous and rich now.
Yes, so I'm more grounded at this point. So I go up on Envy's panel. Now Envy's like 100, 200, sometimes 300 people watching. So I'm nervous. I've got my camera on. I've got my full fringe down, and I'm wearing my strap vest top. And you know, I've tucked my arms under and made sure everything's showing, trying to present in this way.
Oh, like cleavage,
yes.
Right.
Yes, like trying to present a certain way.
You became Katie Montgomery.
But I was saying, you know, I don't see myself as a woman any longer. Like, I did do at the start of it, but it's a process that you need to go through. Like, I see myself as a trans woman.
Yeah.
You know, like, I still use she, her pronouns, but I don't want to impose in women's spaces, you know, and so, you know, that conversation was great. Although Envy is a turf, you know, it was very respectful. I thought I'm going to get shunned, I'm going to get shouted at, I'm going to get screamed at, you know, but ultimately they just, you know, they were like, well, you know, you're a man with mental health problems, and this is kind of the route that the society has set up for you to medicalise yourself. So that was my kind of first interaction on the like GC side of TikTok, and then I met Animosity, who's the detransitioner.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing Animosity's story, and I'm like, oh my God, trauma, ding, ding, ding. And I'm like, this relates. And then I met Richie.
I was convinced that I was female, and a large part of that was down to me upbringing, because I'm gay, and I had a lot of struggles with that.
Okay. And hearing Richie's story and the instant regret Richie got from surgery, now bearing in mind, I'm waiting for surgery at this point. I'm on the list at the top of it.
Does that mean you'd already been approved?
No, I was 2 years wait. So they said it would be about 2 years, and then you would get your first appointment to go down for the assessment.
Right.
And I'm now, in fact, I think it was about 2.5 years at this point. So I'm very close to starting the process, you know, the hair removals that you need to get. And
what about hair on your face during these years? Did you shave?
Yeah. So I had hair removal. I got £1,500 funding for hair removal that doesn't work. So they started with IPL machine all over, and then we were moving on to electrolysis into the problem areas. But once
the problem areas, even the way they put that,
these areas, the problem areas. But once that money's done, there's no more funding.
Okay.
So you know, it's weird because they're setting you up to feel, I'm getting all of this help. And then it's like, right, well, you've no help me. Go and spend $2,500 on hair removal yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you should never offer that in the first place anyway. A razor and some shaving foam is just as good. Because if you look, you can see, you know, I've got patches here where they actually, the hair growth is still coming through. But, you know, like, it didn't work.
And before, were you patchy? Or?
So, no, I was, but I was more patchy up this area.
Right.
But here, it's that these areas were very, very thick and dense. Yeah. So I've got like wee patching in this bit, but it's coming back. This is where they've done the electrolysis.
You know, okay, I can see it growing as we're talking.
And it's, you know, it's coming back. You know, so it doesn't work.
And how often do you have to shave, or do you shave it like?
I tend to not shave as much now, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've kind of embraced my, you know, I do it more so to get the growth back now.
Right.
So I'm like,
so stimulate it.
Yeah.
Does that happen? Can it come back even? Okay.
Yeah. So I might have some patching where the electrolysis was, because the electrolysis kills it from the root.
Yeah.
So I might have some areas where, you know, it won't. But with the IPL done, IPL is just to lighten and, you know.
So as a young teenager, you were looking for a beard.
Yeah.
And now you're in your 30s, you're looking for a real beard.
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic?
I know.
Don't you think? Right. So you met Richie in real life.
No,
Or just online?
on TikTok. So he came up on Envy's panel also and started
Right.
speaking about his story. So I'm hearing Animosity's story and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's traumatic. That
And,
I
yeah.
can relate to the trauma of it. And then I'm hearing Richie's story and the doubts and the regrets.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, I can relate to this one even more. So then I've messaged Richie and I'm like, do you mind if we have a private conversation? He shared his story, you know, and he never tried to flip my mind or, you know, kind of convert me to detransition or anything he said. But, you know, he was very brutally honest.
He is.
As he always is.
He's been incredible.
And he's like, you're at this point now where you need to add up if you can live with the doubts or if you can live with the regret. Because not many people can live with that regret. He's like, I struggle to live with that regret. He's like, but I just know that I need to. And that was it. I was like, I can't do this. I can't.
It's almost, it reminds me of A Christmas Carol, where you have the three ghosts of Christmas. You kind of have the past, which is the trauma, the present day, which is the choice that you have.
And now we're in the
And
future.
then there's the future ghost that's gone and had everything done.
Yeah.
A detrans Christmas Carol.
Oh, might be your next music video there, Mr. Minogue.
So it sounds like gradually, you know, you're finding out about stuff. But did it feel like, fuck, my world is collapsing?
Yeah, it did, very much did. So then I go from speaking to Richie and, you know, I've made a great friendship circle off of TikTok. So, I'm speaking to the friends that I've got, like Malatop and Sassy, and I'm saying to them, you know, I'm really regretting these decisions. I was like, I don't know where I'm going here. Don't know where I'm going. And then ultimately I spoke to my sister. I went out in the car and up to the supermarket to get a wee meal deal. That was the highlight of my life at this point. And I sat in the car and I'm about to eat my sandwich and I'm like, I need to phone my sister. And I phoned her and I says, I think I've fucked up. And she says, why? I was like, because I've medicalized my body and I think I've made an ultimately the wrong decision. I've been trying to get away from everything. This isn't make a new life for me and I think I've just fucked up. And, you know, she had said to me, she's like, well, can you stop the medication? I says, yeah, but there's obviously going to be complications with it if I do, I think, because at this point I didn't know what any issues would be. And then she's like, well, why don't you go back to living as Michael? She's like, what? Well, is it going to hurt you? She's like, what? So you go back living as Michael for 4 or 5 years, and what if you do decide that actually Caitlin is who you're supposed to be? Then retransition. There's nothing stopping you, is there? Just see if you can, you know, live your life as gay Michael again.
Gay Michael.
And then ultimately, that's what I did. I left that call, and I think from that call, from speaking to Richie, Animosity, Envy, you know, speaking to Malatov, all these people, I was like, this is the end. And that was at the end of May that call happened. I think it was about the 25th of May. And yeah, we jumped forward a couple of weeks. I had my appointment at Sandyford. I actually didn't have that appointment. I emailed them and I said I need an appointment. So they gave me that appointment and I went in. And this is where it all shook me at how grossly unprepared the gender clinics are to deal with detransitioners. Medically inequipped springs to mind. So I told my gender specialist, I says, I'm detransitioning. And she says, oh, really? I says, yeah. I says, I've stopped my medication, I'm detransitioning. I says, so where do I go from here? And she's like, oh, well, you seem like you've thought about it, so that's fine. And I was like, yeah, right, okay, fine. And I'm very blunt and, you know, I'm just to the point where I need you to tell me the steps because I want to stop this. This is it. I'm done with it. It's, you know, and I also went in with the mindset of I'm worried in case they try and convince me to stay with them. You know, don't detransition. You know, just continue on this path even more. So I'm like, this is what I'm doing, matter of fact. And she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I've never dealt with a detransition. I'm going to need to ask. She's like, I don't know how to detransition you. I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah. She's like, oh, and good job you didn't get the bottom surgery then, wasn't it? I'm nearly falling off my seat. I was like, did you just make a joke? And I'm sitting here asking for medical help and you're like, oh, well, good job you didn't go through with it. Yeah, good job, I do still have my penis. So,
Yeah, not thanks to you,
I know.
clinic.
So I was the one that says, oh, well, like, surely I'm going to need some sort of testosterone because I've got a blocker in my system. I'm not producing any testosterone.
But also, there's that, like you said, I've just stopped taking the drugs, but is that even safe to just come off it?
She didn't know.
And, because that's like going cold turkey. Is it not should you not be sort of weaned off it bit by bit and give your body a chance to recalibrate?
Yeah.
So they don't know.
They don't know. I had to tell them, I want testosterone. My body's not producing it. I've stopped taking the estrogen. There's going to come a point in time where I've got low estrogen levels, no testosterone levels, no hormone in my endocrinome system.
Okay.
This is going to get dangerous.
Our bodies produce testosterone. Yours was medically shut down from producing it. So if you then stop taking the androgen blocker, does your body do your balls basically slowly wake up and go, all
well,
right.
they didn't know.
Right.
They couldn't tell me any of this.
Or do they need like a kickstart?
A jolt, aye. They couldn't tell me any of it.
Had you also had any atrophy in that area?
No.
Okay.
Thankfully not.
Okay. And pain and things?
Thankfully none of that.
Okay.
Coming off of it, I did kind of get pain. It was more on my stomach area, like my lower abdomen area. I would get the pain. And my knees, because obviously the pain that I now have in my knees, that got a lot worse.
When you came off?
When I came off.
Okay.
My migraines got a lot worse.
That's interesting.
Yes, but they couldn't tell me anything. They didn't know how long it would take, because the blocker I ended up on was a 3-month one. So you would get you would get an injection every 3 months. So you end up building up a kind of reserve. So even though, I just had my blocker at the start of May, and even though I had just got that done, I would have still had a reserve. So they didn't know how long it took for the blocker to actually leave my system.
Right.
Didn't know, they didn't know how long it would take for my levels to return to normal.
Yeah.
They didn't know if I was infertile or not, even though I'd been on.
Yeah.
They can't obviously tell that without testing.
Yeah.
But they didn't know anything. Nothing. No help. The therapy. I had to demand that they gave me testosterone. They didn't, and then I asked them, oh, well, I've got the blocker in my system, so is it going to block the artificial testosterone that I'm now taking?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know.
And how long would you need to take the artificial testosterone for? Because I think one thing that Richie pointed out was, obviously he doesn't have the ability to produce his own anymore, that his body didn't respond well to the synthetic testosterone because, it's not the same thing. So you're just sort of left in the dark.
Yep.
Again. And then?
Yeah. So then, after this phone call, that was it. That was the last I heard.
And when was that?
June.
That was this year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, June. They says, get your blood work done in 6 months and we might send you an appointment. That was it. So I'm left, no help, no support. I've just totally, what would have seemed like I've nuked the full life that I've built up because, 7 years of being Caitlin is now gone. The relationship that I had has ended.
Which wasn't a positive experience.
Yeah, it was not an amicable ending, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm left on my own. The only sort of solace and resolve that I have was these people that didn't even know me that I met online.
And your family?
And my family, yeah. But even at that, but they don't know anything about it.
Yeah, they can just support you.
Yeah. So, and obviously before this appointment, I phoned and told my dad, and, my dad's like, well, if that's what you want, in one breath, but in the next breath was like, I'll just be glad to get my gay son back. So I'm like, it's...
That's quite sweet in a way.
It is. But it's like, where does one turn to get actual medical professional advice?
So now you're still in a point where you're no longer taking the estrogen stuff. You're no longer taking the blockers, the androgen blockers, but that stuff might still be in your system.
Yep.
you're not getting any testosterone boosters.
I'm still on the testosterone.
Oh, you're on testosterone
Yes, I'm
now.
still
Oh,
on
you
the
did get some.
testosterone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did that feel? Was that like a jolt? Because testosterone is such a powerful thing. Did you
Yes,
take it and
it
go,
was-
whoosh, Superman?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, my anger went crazy.
Okay.
Like I was even more angry on that than I had ever been. You know, even just as a normal man that had testosterone flowing through his system.
Yeah.
It was, but I also think that was because, you know, I'm pumping testosterone into a body that's filled with estrogen. So I've got two hormones in my system
Yeah.
that is competing and fighting. You know, I've since came after speaking to other people that what they could have actually given me was an estrogen suppressor while being on testosterone.
Right. Okay. So
It would have balanced
Yeah.
itself.
So
I
from
would
a
be-
testosterone
yeah.
blocker and estrogen, you go to an estrogen blocker and testosterone. My days.
So it's, you know, I'm
Plus, you
literally-
had plenty of reasons to be angry.
Yeah.
So there's the testosterone just fueled the anger that was already there.
Yeah, so there I'm turning into the Scottish Hulk. I'm literally
From Cannabis Caitlin
to
to Michael the Hulk.
I'm like, honestly, it was the most unstable, erratic, emotional, aggressive behaviour I had ever exhibited. But I had no medical professional to ask, why am I like this? I went to my doctors, my GPs, and they were great. These are new doctors that I'm with now. They're absolutely phenomenal women that I'd seen there. Phenomenal. You know, they were so upset and angry at the fact that I'd just been abandoned. You know, they're like, I'm writing a letter to them and they've done so wrong, they've just left you, they should have offered you counselling. And, you know, they've got me, I've told them about my history that I had, and they're like, right, we're getting a referral into CPNs, we're getting a referral into this, a referral into that, we'll get you all sorted, you know, putting me onto different antidepressants and medications and, you know, making sure that they're managing my migraines and my pain, and phenomenal.
And you're now seeing a therapist.
Yep. Started therapy a few weeks ago, so the ball is rolling on that.
And is that like 12 or sessions? Is that like limited? Or like
20 sessions.
20 sessions.
So the way that the therapist has described it is you get 20 sessions, then you have to kind of go and, you know, see how you're feeling and kind of live life with the techniques and different things that they've helped you establish.
Yeah.
But if you think that you need to get more, then I go to them. I don't go for a referral or anything. I phone them back up and say...
Because that's only 5 months worth. And to me, that always sounds like that's just the start of it.
Yeah.
Especially when you have to deal with the kind of stuff, you know, because it's like everything's just piled on. You know, there was that initial experience, that assault, then everything on top of that.
Yeah.
It's a lot to work through.
Yeah.
That's going to take more than 5 months.
Yeah. And they don't deal with gender specialists kind of training. They're just, you know, other kind of trauma-based
That's
training.
good, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But I am also going to need to get some form of therapy to kind of work through the last 7 years. So they can help me for the years prior to the last 7.
Right.
But, you know, I've constructed this life over the last 7 years on the basis of lies. So, you know, but then I don't want to get therapy off a gender
No.
affirming therapist. So it's like, where do you go to actually get the therapy as a detransitioner?
Well, I mean, there is a group called Thoughtful Therapists. Do you know about them?
I think I've heard of them, yeah.
Right, so they're all about taking the holistic point of view and helping people with these issues. There's also Beyond GenSpect.
Yeah, I've heard of Beyond Gen.
I think now they just do groups. And one thing that you did, you went to an event here in Glasgow organised by Human Gay Male.
Yes.
What was that like? Because then you were like Gay Michael
Yeah,
at a gay men's event.
yeah. It was great.
It was like was it like a pub thing or walk going for a
I know
walk?
it was in one of the pubs in Edinburgh, but it was absolutely amazing. Amazing just to sit down and have a conversation with like-minded individuals, you know, that doesn't feed into this ideology, gender identity bull.
Yeah.
And just have that conversation. You know, I was able to tell them about my experience as a detransitioning gay male, and it was lovely. I'm away with them again next month. Fabulous group of people. This month, fabulous group of people, and I think that was actually my my first actual outing as gay Michael again, you know, and it helped with my confidence so much.
Yeah. Right, okay. So we've covered loads. If we look at the systemic or the structural things that are in place that are they funneled you down this path from gay men to trans woman, and when you're like, hey, I want to get off this train, they're like, oh, we don't know. You mentioned in your medical papers, you know, you find it quite homophobic, they write about you.
Yeah.
What makes you use the word homophobic?
It's the connotation that gay men can't be feminine. You know, Caitlyn presented feminine. Caitlyn was wearing feminine clothes. Caitlyn had a feminine hairstyle. You know, if you were to walk in with your long hair, well, that's a feminine hairstyle.
Right, and I had a blow dry yesterday.
You know, well, that's a feminine.
There you go. And if you had done my nails,
you know,
we'll get a
nails
close up of
and
the nails.
something
Look at
like
how we
that's
sit.
feminine.
We both sit like this,
Feminine.
right? We're meant to sit like this, right?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
this connotation that gay men shouldn't be feminine unless they want to trans the gay away.
And quite a few of these blokes in dresses that think that they're women, they say to me, oh, just transition already. Like somebody the other day wrote, you've got the feminine touch, Minogue. You're trans, or you're probably trans. Is that the feminine touch? First of all, and there's a very big difference between gay men being like us and being feminine.
Yes.
Like, why do they? It's like they think that, oh, if you're not masculine, then it means you're feminine, and if you're not feminine, then it means you are masculine, and that's a rigid binary way of looking at it, and it's so narrow. There's a completely different way between, we can sit like this and be expressive and a bit, you know,
animated with our hands. Yeah,
exactly. It's animated. It's or flamboyant or theatrical. That's not the same as feminine. It pisses me off. And it pisses a lot of women off because they're like, we're not like that. Why are they saying that we're like that? Women are not gay men, and gay men aren't women. It's like, duh. Anyways, so what do you think would explain the gender clinic's lack of rigor and lack of curiosity?
The W path, the guidelines that they follow. It's a question no one and affirm everyone approach. So if it starts at the top where this affirmation is and the lack of questioning, and these doctors are just following the guidelines. You know, the doctors get told what to do. So I think when you're doing it that often, you're kind of losing the instinct of doctor, and you're just following the guides.
Helen Joyce, she once said, it's not just that an organization goes off track when this stuff gets into their business. It corrupts their original mission.
Yep.
So here you have, what do you think about the idea that we shouldn't even have gender clinics?
I don't think we should. So when I first detransitioned, I was on the fence. There is a true trans idea. Now I'm seeing more people, the damage that it's done to them, you know, the women who have had double mastectomies and, you know, hysterectomies because of this. And I'm like, this is just hurting people. For what? For the 0.2% of people that actually possibly might have some sort of better life? Why? Why are we doing it? I'm totally against it, and I think it should be outright banned for both kids and adults in the UK.
Yeah, we don't have specialist depression clinics.
Yeah, what are
everything's is just under mental health, because that's where you should get that holistic picture, look at you as a person rather than... Yeah, no, I agree. You just touched on how women and girls are hurt by this. There are very different reasons why girls and women go down that path and why men go down that path, although that in itself is a bit of a stereotypical idea, because for you it was very much triggered about trauma around sexual assault. One very, you know, emotive aspect, if you like, of this is the whole thing around AGP and autogynephilia. Is this something that ever played a role for you? The idea of, I want to be a woman, I'm going to grow breasts, and this is erotic.
No, I didn't know anything about it, but I was never sexually attracted to myself as the idea of being a woman. Or, you know, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be a woman in this relationship. You know, it wasn't that kind of erotic connotation on it. I just
Right.
wanted to get away from that
Right.
that trauma. That was the main thing. I didn't even know what AGP was until I actually, a few months ago, and I met Ari, and Ari explained it to me. AGP
Yeah, because
and
he's
and,
well on that.
yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, there's people like this, you know. And I didn't know I would have been known as a HSTS.
Yes.
The homosexual transsexuals, because that was the idea of
Yes.
true trans.
That's the Blanchard
yes.
classification. I don't really buy into that, to be honest.
No, I don't either. I don't think anybody's transsexual. I just think it's mental illness that needs
But
to be
also, I
handled
think-
appropriately.
For him, it's that classification. It's too binary and simplistic, because I think gay men who go down that path can also have AGP. Why not? And some
Do
detransitioners have talked about it, but this is, I mean, as the word is getting out more about AGP, some people now think that every man is by definition an AGP. If they've gone, I get called an AGP because I've done drag, or I've dressed up in videos, or I have long hair, you know.
Yeah.
So this, in a way, I wonder if it might be holding back some other male detransitioners from speaking out. And there's something really interesting that we talked about on the phone the other day. Now you're Michael. First of all, being gay is an aspect of it. Being a detransitioner is an aspect of it. But there is this thing of like, oh, now you're a detransitioner. How do you present yourself? What is a detransitioner meant to look like or act like? I think this is something that Ari is really struggling with now at the moment, because he still wears dresses and makeup and whatever. But it's almost like there's now a pressure to fit in to the detrans box.
Yeah. I don't think there is a particular look of a detransitioner. I think personally, and I've said it to Ari and I've said it to other people, you have to take the path that is less self-destructive. If you're going down a path that's going to absolutely nuke the life that you've got, what's the chances that you're going to be led back into the ideology? Very high. I was lucky that I pressed the nuke button before detransitioning. But if I still had the fiancé, the picket fence with the cat and the dog, and my fiancé was still there, I would have navigated detransitioning differently.
Yeah.
I didn't have these emotional ties. It was just me. So I could hit the self-destruct button and be able to build from the ashes up. But anybody that's potentially thinking about detransitioning, it's detransition in a way that's never going to make you want to retransition.
Yeah, because that happens.
So I am never going to stop getting my nails done. Even though I've been told off of other people that if I was a detransitioner, I should stop getting my nails done. I need to stop being feminine. I'm not allowed to talk about being detransitioning until I've dealt with, the trauma that I experienced and the therapy that I experienced. And I'm like, no, like, are you just wanting me to putting these harsh stereotypes onto a detransitioner is only going to serve to push them back into society.
Yeah.
We should be embracing them and saying, well, do you know what? If you are a bit more feminine, if you are getting your nails done, it's fine. Of course, I believe, I kind of have the stance of Posey Parker where, if you're getting your nails done and you're still wearing bras and you're still wearing dresses and you're fixing your hair just ever so slightly, where it's kind of still deceiving to the eye, then maybe you're not the best example of someone who is detransitioning, but...
It's odd, there is a line, and because I can see it myself as well, and I've always said we should get rid of all these regressive stereotypes. And the way you do that is by embracing your sex and giving all this gender stuff the middle finger. But I still recognize there is some kind of line where you kind of go, I'm not sure now. I'm like when I showed you that picture of when when I was in a BBC documentary and I was playing a transsexual, and I showed that picture to my dad, and my dad just went, "It's too real. It's too real." So with some detransitioners, I guess, people looking at that are going like, "Yeah, you're brave, you're correct." Oh my God, that's still too. It's too on the line. It's
too
like,
close.
are you still in that camp or not? Where do you sit? I'm just a guy in a dress with nails. Yeah, but why?
But I said to you the other night on the phone call that I think it's situational based. you know, if you're just living your everyday life, then that's fine. But if you're deciding, you know, you're going to stand up in front of governments and, you know, take a podium or take a stance, then yes, you have to do that element of conformity that you might not want to conform to. And that is, you know...
It's ironic because then it's just like when you first went to the gender clinic thinking I must present feminine for them to buy into my story. And now in a way, it's the same. Back to the NHS, something that NHS England is doing, which sounds like a good thing, is they've been consulting with detransitioners in April, and now they're consulting with health professionals, and that consultation is going to end in December. So to me that sounds like, because they want to now put a medical pathway or some kind of pathway in place for people like yourself, this is just NHS England. How does that sound to you? Does it sound like things are going sort of in the right direction?
There definitely needs to be a detransitioning pathway set up, but I also don't think that they're going to tell people that, you know, if someone's looking to transition, that there's going to be, you know, here's this medical leaflet, if anything goes wrong. It's still going to be very hush-hush. And the only people that will know about it are people like me that says, I want to detransition, because no one mentioned detransitioning to me until I went online and I heard it on GC panels talking about detransitioners, and then I'm like, oh, what's this? You know, the doctors don't tell you at the start, or there might come a point where you need to stop doing this because it's been the wrong decision.
Yes, and if gender clinics specialise in all that stuff, then surely they should specialise in both. But yeah, I can't imagine the 74 clinic having a pull-out banner saying, detransition today.
Yeah, yeah.
Still, to me, it does look like there's some movement.
But it's only for England.
It's only for England.
Scotland's done nothing.
Right. Is the system set up to fail gay men?
Yeah. Yeah, 100% is. It's allowing regular gay men that just likes kind of gender non-conformity or gender bending, whatever way you want to say it. It's allowing them to think that the better option for them is to transition. Trans the gay away. You know, don't be feminine gay. Just be a feminine trans woman.
Your true self.
So 100% is failing gay men. And this affirmation approach is why it's failing gay men. Because we're just affirming instead of questioning.
And not helping them explore the much bigger picture. So in a way, do you feel that having come out of it, well, you're sort of still in the process, you know. I'm talking about like, oh, done. But obviously it's not like that. But now you're here as gay Michael. Hurrah. Welcome back. Welcome home.
Just a little gay me.
Yeah, it's almost like the trans woman idea is those are the courageous ones.
Yeah.
And we're the cowards who don't have the balls. Well, we have the balls. Like that Juno Dawson bloke. He actually said being gay was a consolation prize. Now, you've obviously had the effects of the androgen blockers and the estrogen, but you haven't had the surgery.
No.
So do you feel like I dodged a bullet there?
Yes, I do. The only thing is I will always have gynecomastia unless I have it surgically removed. So
are you wearing like a binder or something?
No, I've got a vest underneath this, but it's...
Right, okay.
You can very much see it if it's not baggy.
And does it look different from a guy?
Normal gynecomastia, yes. So obviously males, you know, have gynecomastia. It's kind of natural if you're a bit overweight or whatever. But theirs droops down.
Right,
whereas this goes out.
Yeah, okay.
So you can tell it's not normal gynecomastia from weight.
And daily press-ups isn't gonna...
No,
No,
there's only so much. But that's one of the effects of taking estrogen for so long. It will shrink, but it will never go away. So I'm now going to have corrective surgery to fix it.
Oh, God.
Which also isn't offered on the NHS as a detransitioner.
It isn't?
No.
No, and is that going to make you look like a trans man?
Yeah. So no, because normally it will just be keyhole.
Right.
So they'll just kind of go through and suck it all out. They don't normally like...
You won't get the
do
scar
the line
because they're not
scarring.
that size,
You know, I'm not removing an implant, I'm just removing the extra tissue. So what I've seen anyway is kind of very small incisions that you'll have and they'll heal up, you know. But yeah, it's not fun that the fact that, you know,
No.
they've medicated me for 5 years, and now that I'm reversing, they don't want to know. They don't want to help with any of these.
Right, so that brings us on to not just Gay Michael, but Gay Michael the advocate or the campaigner.
Yep.
So you said that you've got yourself a GoPro.
Yep.
You're waiting for some mics and you're going to hit the streets.
Yes.
What do you have in mind?
Well, a lot of people don't see the harm that the ideology is actually doing. You know, we see people talking about it. We see, you know, we've got very strong women that's talking about it on the basis of women's rights, you know, which is great and I support. But I want to challenge people on it on the basis of I am a person that has been hurt by this. I was medicalized for 5 years or near about. Like, this is the example of the damage it's doing. Like, what's your thoughts now? Are we still going to affirm them? Are we still just going to feed into this ideology? Or are we actually going to take a stand as society and say enough is enough?
Right.
Why are we as a society feeding into hurting people?
And the one argument that they always, you know, from the other side always plays is, oh, it's only the 1% that regrets it.
Give me a study. Give me a stat. Give me a reference. Give me anything. There's nothing. They feed off of trans surveys that are only asked to still trans-identified individuals. We don't have ICD codes. We're not on the DSM-5 as a condition. You know, the NHS has openly admitted that they don't collect stats on people who detransition. So how do we know it's only 1%?
Yeah.
How
And
do
like,
we know it's a marginal amount of people?
we're hearing from you today. How many other guys are there that we just don't know about?
Yeah.
Plus,
The silent detransitioners.
I don't care about whether it's 1% or 5% or 10%. I mean, I do care, obviously, the more, the worse it is. But that's not the point. The point to me is like this conversation we've had today that shows the cracks in the system, not just the cracks in the system. It's not just that you fell through a crack. They put you on a train.
Yep.
And they're like, these are the stops.
Yep. Well, I equate it to if you go and get open heart surgery and something goes wrong, there's a backup plan.
Right.
You know, go and get knee surgery, something goes wrong. There's a backup plan. It's the only thing that doesn't have a backup plan.
Again, that's to me the lack of curiosity,
Yeah.
even from a medical perspective. This is the one area in every field that this touches, it changes the rules.
Yeah. Why is that? Because if they collect these statistics on detransitioners, on people who have been medicalised for X amount of years, the risk goes up, the benefit goes down. Medicine is a risk versus benefit situation. If the risk outweighs the benefit, why are we offering it? So we'll just let the detransitioners stay silent.
We'll just ignore them.
They'll go away eventually. Well, no, this one. This one's a wee nippy sweetie.
A voice box.
Yeah, a voice box.
Yeah, and we need that. We need all different voices to break through this stuff. And have you already met with like politicians, I think?
Yeah, I've spoken to Dr. Pam Gossel.
From
Lovely
the
woman.
Conservatives,
Yes.
Scottish Conservatives.
Yes, absolute lovely woman. You know, she herself has been trying to push stuff through Parliament to help detransitioners, to help women. Her and a couple of our other colleagues. I'm going to be speaking to one of them because Pam's out of my area. So in Scotland, you need to kind of stick to your areas for certain things. And this is one of them. So I've been transferred over to one of the other politicians that I'll be touching base with. But hopefully, because we're on the run up to Parliament, elections in Scotland, it kind of dies down a little bit with stuff. So hopefully we're going to be doing some kind of round table events where we're speaking to different people about it. And ultimately, my goal is to get to stand up in front of the Scottish Parliament during question time or whatever it may be and actually give a testimony of yous are allowing this. Yous are the only one that can help people like me. Yous. And yous are choosing to do nothing. You're choosing to push through or try to push through this idea of self-identification that after 3 months somebody can just self-ID. It's insanity. Where's the help for people like myself? Where is the help for people that are silent detransitionists? Where is it? If you want to offer something, have the help when people make the mistakes. You
And
know?
how did you get in touch with Pam? Did you reach out to her, or did somebody?
Yes, I reached out to Pam. I sent her an email, contact, the contact forms that they have. I sent her a wee contact form and I tagged her in to my Twitter. I put up about my story on Twitter and I tagged her into that and stuff. But I did a bit of research and I seen that, she was very strong on women's rights, and I thought...
She spoke at that rally on the 5th of September.
The 100 days,
199 days. That was on the 1st of November.
Yes.
But in September she spoke at the For Women Scotland rally.
Yep.
Women Won't Wait. So good for you for reaching out and getting...
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we need. Okay, if you now look back on this, I mean, you're still young, right? And there's things that you only understand when you're in your 40s about yourself and in your 50s, and that comes with time. So I'm not expecting you to be here at 33 with all the answers. But a metaphor that my mum often uses is, as you go through life, it's like weaving a tapestry. And you're at the back, stitching things up and weaving things, but you're seeing all the mistakes and you're seeing all the loose ends and all the knots and all the, the way you've tried to fix certain things. But if you were to then step in front of what you've been working on, what sort of picture do you see emerging?
Happiness. A happy way. A wee sunshine and me standing on a hill with my sign saying detransitioners exist, and just helping folk. Dismantling this ideology from the inside. It says, organisations that stands for women's rights are absolutely fundamental, but ultimately it's going to be detransitioning voices that takes this down, and I'm going to be one of them. So,
right, what have you learned about being a man?
just be who the fuck you want. Like, if you're a feminine man, be a feminine man. If you're a masculine man, if you're gay, straight, who cares? Just live in your truth.
And looking back on these last couple of years and how you've navigated things, there's plenty of things where you would have said, well, I did that wrong or didn't do that particularly well. What is something that you would say, actually, Michael, he did that well? Or that's something that you recognise as a quality or a strength of your character that you can take with you as you go forward?
Coming out of the ideology, it was very hard. It's like a cult-like mentality. And, me coming out the ideology didn't just start with Michael, it started with Caitlin. It's stop him using the female bathroom, stop him seeing yourself as, female, stop him this idea of, I'm going to be seen as something that I'll never be. And that process gradually brought me to where we are now. Because if I still was on the plan of, if you don't affirm, you're against, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be Michael.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say?
I think we've covered
a lot.
A lot, yeah. And we've got women won't wished, when we've got detransitioners won't wished either.
And you got some gay men.
And gay men won't
in
wished,
your corner.
And even we're now seeing an uprising of straight men coming out and saying enough is enough, leave our women's spaces alone and let them be.
Like those guys back in school when you came out as gay.
Yeah, we've got them now. So we just listen. Together a movement is created, and together an ideology will be stopped.
Where can people find you?
So I am on Twitter, Michael WK20. I am on TikTok on Michael WK2 or Gay Michael, GEH. And that's primarily where everybody can find me. You'll see me doing debates on TikTok, and hopefully next week will be my first time hitting the streets and taking it to the people.
Next week?
Yes.
Okay.
I ain't waiting about.
Excellent.
Rome wasn't built in a day, but trust me, the ideology will be destroyed in 7.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming up today and for your time and for sharing your story. And we'll get it out there. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And I shall see you in the next one. Ciao.
Bye. Done.
Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my PayPal and Patreon supporters. Because of you, I can make videos like this. Special shout out to my big spenders. Help Her Open, Mama Turv and the Turventines, me Julie, the lovely Mary, Julia, Dusty, Judels, Leffy, Dorothy, Wildfire, Esther, and Martha. Thank you.